All right, so for part 2 of the lesson, we're going to start talking about doing some trig on these. If you recall, the three side lengths of a 45, 45, 90, let's label the angles so we know it is a 45, 45, 90, are x, x, and x root 2. And so we're going to start putting these onto the xy axis. And hopefully you know that if this is a 90-degree angle, the 45 degree will go right through the middle of the quadrant and right through the middle of this quadrant, right? And so on and so forth. So we'll start talking about doing trig with 45, 45, 90. So if we were looking at the cosine of 45 degrees, and let's say this is on the xy axis, this would be the adjacent, and this would be the hypotenuse. So we'd end up with x over x root 2. And then the x's will, of course, divide out to be 1. So we end up with 1 over the square root of 2. Then we need to rationalize, multiply top and bottom by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. So we end up with the square root of 2 over 2. Root 2 over 2 is the cosine of 45 degrees. Now, let's talk about the sine of 45 degrees, which would be, this would be our opposite, x over x root 2, which is the same as the cosine problem, where the x's will drop out, and we get 1 over the square root of 2, and then we would rationalize it and end up with root 2 over 2 again. And then finally, the last problem is the tangent of 45, which would be opposite over adjacent, x over x, which of course is just 1. So these, for every 45, 45, 90, the cosine of 45 and the sine of 45 will always be root 2 over 2, and the tangent of 45 will always be 1. And I would say that like these are numbers you should commit to memory. It would just go so much faster if you could just rattle off, oh, cos 45 root 2 over 2. And we'll start giving you problems in other quadrants as well. Like I could give you something over here and talk about like, well, what's the cosine of 225 degrees? Well, 225 degrees would be all the way out here, like so. And what's that reference angle right in there? Well, that's a 45 degree angle. So we're really looking at the cos of 45, but we know that it's going to be negative. And so then this would be negative root 2 over 2 would be the answer. So I'm going to give you a couple practice problems and you'll go through those and then check the answer key. But commit these guys to memory. This will make life a lot easier. Awesome.